You wake up and nothing is actually wrong. The room is quiet. The light is normal. Your phone hasn't even made a sound yet. And still, before your feet touch the floor, something already feels heavy. Not sadness exactly. Not anxiety either. Just a soft gray pressure sitting behind your chest, like the day has already started without you. You reach for your phone almost automatically. You don't even remember deciding to. Your thumb scrolls while your mind is still half asleep. A message, a headline, someone already productive, someone already at the gym, someone already living a life that looks more organized than yours feels. You sigh, and the sigh happens before a single real event has occurred in your own day. And this is the moment most people quietly blame themselves. You think maybe you lack discipline. Maybe you're just not a morning person. Maybe your personality is naturally low energy. You imagine other people wake up clear, focused, ready. You assume something inside you is weaker. So the day begins not with events, but with a verdict. But your morning mood is not a personality trait. It's a pattern your nervous system learned. The brain wakes up in stages. Before thoughts, before motivation, before decisions, your body releases a small wave of cortisol. Not the stress hormone people fear, but a signal. It is the chemical that tells your brain, the world is beginning again, prepare attention. For a few minutes after waking, your brain is not looking for goals. It is looking for emotional direction. It is asking a quiet question. Is today safe or demanding? Your first inputs answer that question. If the first thing your brain receives is information, comparison, urgency, or evaluation, your nervous system doesn't interpret it as productivity. It interprets it as pressure. And pressure early in a waking state creates a subtle emotional tone that lasts much longer than the event itself. The brain prefers continuity. Once it sets a direction, it keeps matching it. A rushed beginning quietly turns into a rushed afternoon. A tense beginning quietly becomes a tense interpretation of neutral situations. So the heaviness you feel in the morning isn't laziness. It's momentum. Emotional momentum created before you were even fully conscious. In many Japanese households, mornings are not treated as performance time. They are treated as alignment time. There is no rush to prove identity immediately after waking. The first minutes are considered transitional, almost like stepping onto a bridge between sleep and the world. Instead of asking, "What must I achieve?" the environment asks, "How should the day begin?" Two very small behaviors shape this transition more than motivation ever could. The first is simply not checking your phone for the first 20 minutes, not as a rule of discipline, but as protection of emotional direction. Before your brain stabilizes its baseline dopamine and attention rhythm, incoming information becomes louder than it should be. Your mind doesn't yet have a sense of self for the day, so it borrows one from whatever it sees first. The second is opening a window before opening an app. Natural light does something psychological before it does anything biological. It tells the brain the world exists outside your thoughts. Air moves. Light changes. Morning becomes a physical experience instead of a cognitive one. You don't need motivation in the morning. Motivation is a reaction to clarity, not a cause of it. What you need is a softer first input, a beginning that doesn't demand identity before awareness has formed. When the first impression of the day is gentle, the mind doesn't resist waking. It accepts it. And slowly, without forcing positivity, the day stops feeling like something you have to catch up to and starts feeling like something you're allowed to enter. You probably don't remember the exact moment your mornings became rushed. It didn't happen all at once. It happened quietly, through convenience. The phone became an alarm clock, then a news source, then a social connection, then a planner, and eventually the very first place your awareness goes when consciousness returns. Your eyes open, but your mind doesn't wake up into your own life. It wakes up into other people's lives first. A notification pulls your attention outward before your identity has even stabilized. You see opinions, expectations, schedules, reminders, updates. Your brain is still in a fragile state, halfway between dreaming and decision-making, and suddenly it is asked to evaluate, respond, compare, and anticipate. The emotional system is not ready for that level of input, so it does what it is designed to do. It scans for potential problems. You may think you're checking your phone for information, but your brain is actually scanning for threats. Social comparison, unanswered messages, breaking news, time pressure. Each one is tiny, almost harmless alone. But in the first minutes after waking, they are amplified. Your nervous system interprets them as signals that the day is already demanding something from you. Then something subtle happens. Your body becomes slightly tense, but not enough to notice consciously. Your breathing shortens a little. You feel a quiet irritation you can't explain. Nothing has gone wrong, yet your mind already feels late. And you blame willpower. You think you lack control over your habits. But this is not addiction in the dramatic sense. It is anticipation. The brain prefers certainty, and information promises certainty. But early morning information arrives before emotional stability. So instead of clarity, it produces micro-stress. Your dopamine rises quickly as you scroll, then drops just as quickly when there is nothing meaningful to act on. The result is not stimulation, it is restlessness. In many Japanese homes, mornings contain intentional quiet, not silence as a rule, but silence as a buffer. Televisions are often off, conversations are gentle. Even breakfast happens with fewer external inputs. The purpose is not discipline. The purpose is allowing the mind to arrive before demands arrive. Light plays a role too. Opening a window or stepping onto a balcony is common, not as an exercise but as orientation. The body feels temperature, the eyes receive distance, and the brain recalibrates space. Instead of waking into a screen 2 feet away, awareness expands into an environment. This single shift changes how the brain categorizes the day. The world feels physical, not cognitive. You can recreate this without changing your life dramatically. Place your phone somewhere you cannot reach it from your bed, not to resist temptation, but to create a small gap between waking and reacting. When the alarm stops, stand up. Within the first minute, open a window, even slightly. Let real air touch your face. Take 3 slow breaths without trying to meditate or improve yourself. Just notice temperature and light. You are not building a productivity routine. You are giving your brain a stable first impression. You don't need a 5 a.m. wake-up, a complicated ritual, or a perfect morning routine. You need a protected beginning. When the first 20 minutes belong to you instead of the world, your mind stops preparing for pressure before it exists. And the strange thing is, the day doesn't actually become easier, but it stops feeling hostile. The same tasks appear, yet your brain interprets them differently because the opening signal changed. Instead of reacting to the day, you meet it. A calm morning is not created by motivation. It is created by what you don't allow to enter too early. There is another moment in the morning that most people misunderstand. It happens right after you sit up or stand. Your body feels heavy, almost resistant. Your shoulders are tight. Your lower back feels stiff. Your mind interprets this immediately. I'm tired. Sometimes it goes further. I'm lazy. But what you are feeling is not lack of energy. It is lack of circulation. During sleep, your body lowers its movement to nearly zero. Blood flow slows in the extremities. Your lymphatic system, which depends almost entirely on muscle motion, pauses. Body temperature drops slightly. When you wake, your brain turns on faster than your body does. Awareness returns before physical readiness. The result is a mismatch, a conscious mind inside a body that has not yet received the signal to begin. Your brain does not label this mismatch as circulation delay. It labels it as mood. This is why the day can feel mentally heavy before any real thoughts occur. Your nervous system is waiting for a physical cue that the environment is safe enough for action. Without that cue, your mind stays cautious, and caution feels like low motivation. In Japan, there is a small daily ritual that almost everyone recognizes. It lasts only a few minutes and looks surprisingly simple. It is called Radio Taiso, a gentle series of stretches broadcast each morning. Children do it at school. Workers sometimes do it before starting their day. Elderly neighbors perform it in parks. There is no intensity, no sweating, no fitness goal. The movements are slow, rhythmic, and repetitive. The purpose is not exercise, it is transition. When the body moves in a controlled and predictable way, the brain receives a signal. The environment is stable. Muscles contract, joints rotate, breathing deepens, and blood begins circulating more evenly. Within minutes, alertness rises not from stimulation, but from safety. The nervous system shifts from passive observation to quiet readiness. You don't need to copy the ritual exactly. You only need to give your body permission to wake up before you ask your mind to perform. Stand near your bed and roll your shoulders slowly 5 times. Turn your neck gently from side to side without forcing it. Lift your arms overhead and stretch upward as if you are reaching for a shelf you almost can't touch. Bend forward and let your hands hang toward the floor for a few breaths. There is no counting calories, no improving flexibility, no achievement to measure. The goal is simply to move before evaluating how you feel. Do it without music and without your phone. And the strange heaviness you called mood, begins to dissolve. You were never trying to burn energy. You were informing your brain that beginning is safe. Motivation often appears after movement, not before it. When the body starts gently, the mind stops resisting waking. The day doesn't demand effort immediately. It invites participation. You are not forcing productivity. You are removing the signal that tells your brain to stay guarded. And once that signal disappears, clarity doesn't rush in dramatically. It arrives quietly, almost unnoticed, like a room slowly filling with light. You didn't become more disciplined. You simply allowed your body to wake up before you asked your mind to carry the day. There is a moment shortly after waking when many people try to plan their entire day. You sit at the edge of the bed, glance around the room, maybe step into the kitchen, and already your mind begins listing tasks. Emails, deadlines, errands, conversations you need to have, decisions you need to make. Nothing has happened yet, but your brain has opened 10 unfinished loops at once. And strangely, the mood drops right there. You assume it's stress from responsibility. But often it is visual and sensory disorder. Your brain is a prediction system. When it sees many incomplete signals in the environment, It prepares for uncertainty. An unmade bed, scattered objects, a messy table, dishes in the sink. None of these are problems individually. But together they tell your mind the day has already accumulated unfinished business. You think you feel unmotivated. What you actually feel is unresolved. So you try to counter it with planning. You open a planner or notes app, start organizing, trying to gain control mentally. But planning while your environment still feels open-ended forces your brain to manage both physical and cognitive uncertainty at the same time. That creates quiet anxiety, not clarity. In Japan, mornings often begin with something very small and almost invisible: restoring order to a single space. Not deep cleaning, not productivity, just resetting the immediate environment. A futon is folded, a table surface is cleared. Objects are returned to where they belong. The action is slow, almost careful, not rushed. The effect is psychological more than practical. When the eyes see closure, the brain feels closure. A completed physical action reduces internal tension because the mind no longer has to track it. You are telling your nervous system, something has been finished today already. Then comes another gentle ritual: preparing tea before planning the day. Water is boiled, a cup is held, steam rises. For a minute or two, there is no scheduling, no optimization, no decision-making. The brain receives sensory input instead of cognitive demand. Warmth, smell, and stillness ground attention into the present moment. This sequence matters. Order first, intention later. You can try this in a very simple way. After you wake and move your body a little, straighten your bed slowly, not perfectly. Just smooth the sheets. Place the pillow back intentionally. Let your hands finish a task you can see completed. Then, before opening your computer or writing a to-do list, make a drink, tea, warm water, or coffee. But do not combine it with planning yet. Sit for 2 minutes and simply drink it. During those minutes, your brain shifts from prediction mode to presence mode. Instead of calculating everything that could happen, it registers something that already has happened, a small action completed calmly. You are not delaying productivity. You are stabilizing attention so productivity doesn't feel like pressure. Calm rarely arrives through dramatic changes. It accumulates through quiet repetitions. When your morning begins with one finished action and one moment of sensory stillness, your mind stops racing ahead, trying to control the future. It settles into the present, and from that place, planning becomes lighter. You did not solve your entire day. You simply gave your brain proof that things can begin in order, and that small certainty changes how every later task feels. There is also something else that happens in the first minutes of the morning, and most people never notice it because it feels like thinking. You wake up, and almost instantly a quiet voice begins speaking inside your head. I didn't sleep enough. I already feel tired. Today is going to be long. I should have gone to bed earlier. It sounds harmless, almost reasonable, but your brain treats these sentences not as observations, but as instructions. Before your body has even fully hydrated or adjusted to light, your mind has already defined what kind of day you are entering. Morning is the most suggestible state your brain experiences while awake. You are not fully analytical yet. Your chemistry is still stabilizing. In that condition, the brain accepts inner speech as environmental reality. If the first input is evaluation, your nervous system prepares to defend against the day instead of participate in it. You assume you are simply being honest with yourself. In reality, you are narrating too early. In Japanese culture, there is a subtle concept called ma, the space between things. It is the pause before sound, the gap before meaning. Silence is not emptiness. It is preparation. Morning often contains this quality. Not forced meditation, not positive affirmations, but a short period where nothing is interpreted yet. The mind is allowed to exist without commentary. You can apply this without changing your beliefs or pretending to be positive. The shift is small. Delay self-talk until your body has received basic signals of wakefulness. Before you judge the day, drink water. Let light reach your eyes. Move your muscles slightly. Only after those physical signals occur do you allow yourself to form opinions about how you feel. Because often, the negative morning mood was not a real emotional state. It was a premature conclusion made while your brain chemistry was still transitioning from sleep. Try a simple rule. No internal evaluation until after water. You can think about neutral things, notice your surroundings, or simply observe your breathing, but you do not label the day yet. You do not decide you are tired, behind, or unmotivated. You give your mind a small delay. Something interesting happens. The heaviness you predicted frequently never arrives. Your energy stabilizes more than you expected. Not because you forced optimism, but because you stopped interfering with the natural adjustment process. You don't need to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. You only need to postpone them until your brain is ready to interpret accurately. The nervous system, when given a few minutes of unjudged awareness, often organizes itself. You were never required to wake up happy. Turkey, you only needed to stop defining the day before it had a chance to begin. Another quiet pressure appears once your morning seems stable enough to think clearly. You begin planning. Not gently, but completely. You list everything you should accomplish, everything you've been postponing, every improvement you want to make. You open a notebook or your phone and your mind expands into 5 different directions at once. Finish this project. Answer those messages. Exercise. Eat better. Fix your sleep. Learn something new. Be more organized. Nothing here is unreasonable. But your mood drops again, and it's confusing because you haven't even started working yet. The brain does not measure difficulty the way we consciously do. It measures uncertainty and decision load. When you present it with too many possible paths early in the day, it does not feel motivated. It feels responsible for predicting outcomes it cannot yet control. The result is a subtle emotional weight that feels like low energy, but is actually cognitive overload. You interpret it as procrastination. The brain interprets it as risk. In many Japanese workplaces and schools, improvement is approached differently. Instead of beginning the day with a full list of ambitions, the focus is narrowed to a single direction. This comes from the philosophy of small, continuous improvement, not dramatic transformation. The day does not demand a new identity each morning. It asks for one clear movement forward. Choosing one direction lowers internal noise. The brain stops calculating competing priorities and starts preparing for one predictable action. Predictability reduces stress more effectively than motivation increases effort. You can try this before leaving your home. Instead of writing a long to-do list immediately, choose one word that represents the direction of your day. Not a goal, not a task list, just a direction. It might be finish, organize, learn, or respond. You still complete other responsibilities, but your attention has a center. Decisions become lighter because you measure them against a simple orientation rather than against an entire imagined future. There is another small behavior that changes morning mood even more than planning does: leaving slightly earlier than necessary. Most people wake and move with an invisible clock pressing behind them. Even when they are technically on time, their body experiences urgency. Rushing tells the nervous system something important is at stake. Your breathing shortens, your attention narrows, and your mind becomes defensive. Arriving 5 minutes early changes the emotional meaning of your morning. The world stops feeling like a sequence you are trying to catch. It becomes a place you have entered with space. When you walk slower for even 60 seconds, your brain registers that time is available. Availability signals safety, and safety improves focus more reliably than pressure ever has. You are not lowering ambition. You are lowering unnecessary threat signals. Motivation in the morning is unreliable because motivation depends on emotion, and emotion is unstable right after waking. Direction, however, does not require excitement. It requires clarity without pressure. You don't need to begin the day intensely. You need to begin it with room. When there is a small margin between you and your next obligation, your mind stops bracing itself. And once it stops bracing, attention naturally returns. You may still have a busy schedule. Responsibilities remain the same. But internally, you are no longer being chased by your own expectations. You are walking toward the day instead of running after it. You didn't increase your drive. You reduced your friction. For a long time, you may have believed the goal was to wake up happy, to open your eyes and immediately feel clear, motivated, and ready. When that didn't happen, the morning felt like a failure before the day even began. So you searched for stronger routines, stricter schedules, better alarms, more discipline. But happiness is not what a stable morning produces first. Neutrality is. A calm morning rarely feels exciting. It feels unremarkable. The air is ordinary. Your thoughts are not loud. Nothing dramatic improves. Yet something important is missing: resistance. You are not negotiating with the day anymore. You are simply entering it. Your mornings were never broken. They were overloaded with signals arriving faster than your nervous system could organize them. Information, evaluation, planning, urgency, self-judgment, all appearing before your mind, had formed a stable baseline. You interpreted the resulting heaviness as a personal flaw. In reality, it was an environment arriving too quickly. Your brain is not trying to sabotage your day. It is trying to predict and protect. When the first moments after waking feel demanding, it prepares caution. When the first moments feel paced, it prepares engagement. The mood you experience is not random emotion. It is the predictable output of early inputs. Across many quiet routines in Japan, mornings emphasize transition rather than performance. There is respect for rhythm, the understanding that the mind changes state gradually. Small actions are repeated not for efficiency, but for emotional steadiness. Light before information, movement before evaluation, order before planning, direction before ambition. These do not look like self-improvement habits. They look almost too small to matter. Not checking your phone for 20 minutes. Opening a window first. Moving your body gently for a few minutes. Straightening your space. Preparing a drink before planning. Waiting to judge the day until after water and light. Lower the number of signals your brain must interpret at once. And when interpretation becomes easier, mood stabilizes on its own. You don't need to become a morning person. You don't need to feel inspired at sunrise. You only need to protect the first few minutes from unnecessary pressure. If your morning mood improves even slightly, your attention softens. When attention softens, interactions feel lighter, decisions feel clearer. The day bends in a different direction, not because events changed, but because your starting state did. Slow improvement often feels invisible while it is happening. There is no dramatic shift, no sudden motivation. One day, you simply notice you are not dreading the morning anymore. You wake up and the room feels neutral instead of heavy. And neutral is powerful. From neutral, energy can grow naturally. You were never behind. You were beginning every day in defense. Now you are beginning in readiness. And readiness does not require force. It only requires a gentler start.